Head over to miniaturemarket.com where they have thousands of board games at discounted prices, and you can sign up for product alerts. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. It's that time of year where I'm constantly bombarded with people asking me, what games should we get for Christmas? And it's usually colleagues and family and neighbors. Now, today, in this video, we're going to talk about games for gamer enthusiasts. People that really love games, they don't mind reading rules, they don't mind a 20-page rule book. And this is for that. Now there's two other videos I put out today. One for games under $20, little small games that are great for white elephant gifts and stockings. And I did another one for casual gamers or family gatherings. And the links to those videos are below as well. Now all the games that I talk about in today's video, the reviews for those of my reviews are below as well in the description of the video, the links, so you can learn a little bit more if you want to dive in a little bit more. So without further ado, let's get started. Now I've started this list with sort of the lightest ones of these, and we get a little heavier to medium heavy towards the end. First one is called Calico. This is a new game from AEG. Let me give you a 1-minute overview of how this works. Calico is a puzzly strategy game for 1 to 4 players where each player is filling in their entire board with these different quilt-type tiles. You'll be getting points by having 3 or more of the same color, or by finishing goals, like in this case having none of the same colors or patterns surrounding it, or attracting cats, like having 3 or more of the same pattern around, or maybe having 5 in a row of one of these patterns, getting big points for some of these cats. But your board looks like this when you start, and even the goals can be randomized. You're simply placing a tile and drawing one from the supply, and then it's the next player's turn. You can also try to get different achievements each game, having a running total throughout your game lifetime. And they have different scenarios you can try to go through with different setups and different objectives for you to get to the next level. There's also a solo mode which also uses this. So let's see if you can puzzle out all 3 different main objectives at once. Yeah, this one is just a brilliant little puzzle. It's one of those games that you won't be talking much when you play this game. You're just going to be sitting there thinking, how do I maximize my puzzle? How do I score this? I want to score the cats over here. Oh, I want to score the 3 points for the different 3 of the same color over here. Can I get all of the colors and get the rainbow? Oh, but I want to get these 3 main goals as well. And there's just many competing things. You can't get everything, and you're trying to figure out when you're going to go for the right things. In my opinion, this game is best with 2 because it's not as unforgiving if you don't get the tiles you need. But it is an excellent puzzly game. It's not too heavy, but you will be thinking a lot. That's Calico. The next one is called Inner Compass. Now, this one also is from AEG, and this is an abstract strategy game. Let me show you how this works in just 1 minute. Inner Compass is an abstract game with set collection where you're going to be collecting sets and playing them like 2 blues to get a certain amount of points, but then this market is going to fluctuate. On a turn, players are going to be moving on this randomized board and taking a card, feeling an emotion, in that direction. And if they have the right amount of cards for the color they're on, in this case blue is sadness, they can imprint a memory by discarding those cards to get that many points. Then the market fluctuates, now white is worth 6 and the blues are only worth 1. And you'll also be imprinting that memory by taking one of the 3 sadness spots, which come from your own board, and place it where you're at. This makes it harder for other players to imprint memories there, cost them more. And if you're ever able to clear a full row or column, you're able to gain an enlightenment, which are endgame goals like having pieces at the corner of the board, or having some in a row, or having some in different groups, or being on certain or next to certain colors, and these change each game. And in the advanced game, you get to imprint a memory and use the special ability in that row to give you even more depth and strategy in the game. Yeah, everything in this game works together so well. You know, you're trying to figure out which direction to move in. You're trying to figure out, oh, I can get extra card if I move in the same direction of the same card of the color that's there. Or I can turn in these sets to make some points. And that fluctuating market is the right time to turn in those sets is huge. But then you also have all the end game goals that you're trying to figure out, and as you're going through the game, you're looking at these longer term strategies and trying to figure out, well, which one am I going to be able to maximize? If I'm the first one to place it there, I get some extra points as well. It's a pretty simple game mechanically, but there's definitely a lot going on of like both what should I do right now as well as some longer term planning. If you like sort of abstracted strategy games, this is an excellent one, Inner Compass. The next one is one that you can find in mass market stores as well, and it's called Pan Am. And in this game, you're trying to be a business person that gets all your roots pretty much bought up by Pan Am because the one who has the most stock of Pan Am in the end wins. Let me show you how this works in just 1 minute. Pan Am is an economic game for 2 to 4 players where you'll be building up your fleet of your own airline and building up income, going to different destinations and placing engineers to take actions. You're trying to have the most Pan Am stock, counted with these cards, whoever has the most wins at the end of the game, sort of like buying points. Over the course of the game, you're going to be building airports that give you landing rights, and you'll also be playing other cards that give you landing rights in order to build routes like this. Sometimes you might have the card of where you're going and you get to keep this. Other times you'll be discarding cards of the same region color, but you'll still be able to go to New York, for example. Other times you'll be discarding 2 cards of the same color that doesn't match the region in order to get those rights. It's very costly, but you might need to do it. From these routes, you'll be gaining you income, which will help you buy that stock for points. But it's also going to help you buy more planes and upgrade to better planes where you can go further because whoever is there at the end of the round will pay that much to do that action. But others might want it better and bump you off. And you're trying to position yourself to get bought out by Pan Am, which will get you a lot of money to spend on stock. But you'll also be playing some hidden special ability cards at the right time, at the right place to give yourself the win. Now this game's very interesting because it's basically worker placement where you're placing your little people and you're doing an action. But there's a lot of some spots that are sort of bidding and you're knocking players off. How much are you willing to pay to take a specific action? But you're also trying to build these routes and you're trying to strategically figure out place yourself where you'll get bought out by Pan Am. And you're going to be giving you more money, more things to do, more actions. But there's also ways towards the end of the game, if you were a little bit slower on getting bought up by Pan Am, there's still ways that you can win based upon some of the event cards that come out in the last round. It's just an interesting economic game where you're running your business, but it's very clever in the way it works with both the worker placement, the route building, and trying to get bought up by Pan Am. And that one's called Pan Am. The next one is called Aftershock. This is from Stronghold Games. It's actually co-designed by the designer of Ticket to Ride, Alan Armoud. Let me give you a 1-minute overview of how this one works. Aftershock is a strategy game for 3 to 5 players where each player is going to have their own shield. They'll be doing some hidden planning behind it. They'll also be purchasing different cards and trying to control different areas. And you'll be playing either on the San Francisco side or the Venice, Italy side. And at the end of the round, certain places are going to be scoring for having the most, second most, or third most amount of people in that location. But locations will only likely score if you get help from other players, like the white player asking for the red player to help this score. Well, maybe the red player does it, but only if the white player helps red score in Palo Alto. Also, players can cause aftershocks, sending different meeples on their bridges to other places. Or they can also use other players' bridges by giving them money. And actions in this game are taken by cards that you'll purchase with a certain amount of money in this closed economy game, but you'll also be buying cards from other players as well. But not only will you be secretly planning where some of your meeples and bridges and where the aftershocks will happen, you'll also secretly be saying which ones you want to score, trying to work with those other people. You'll be managing money to buy those actions in order to place your people and also to build bridges to mitigate the aftershocks and negotiating for scoring. Now this one is interesting because it uses a mechanism I really love in games. Games like Tammany Hall and Rising Sun, where you're negotiating and working kind of with other players. You're like, oh, you're gonna go here, you're gonna go here, let's make this one happen. But they could turn the tides and not follow through, and you could be totally hosed. And so in this game, it has a lot of player interaction. If you like that, if you like being able to make alliances with players and possibly sticking with them for a while, but possibly breaking them at the right time, then this is one for you. It's also got that sort of route building in there too. Very interesting game, Aftershock. The next one is a very immersive pirate game called Forgotten Waters from Plaid Hat Games. Let me give you a 1-minute overview of how this one works. Forgotten Waters is a crossroads game where each of you will be one of these 7 different pirates. And each of your pirates, you'll be actually building a backstory, and certain things will happen to that pirate throughout the game. The game is app-driven, and you'll be selecting one of 5 different scenarios to play. And each of those scenarios have different goals, like getting to this island, for example. But as you go, you'll have crossroad events where you have to decide what to do. And you'll be listening to voice actors tell you what's going on.
I see a lot of people on deck! More than normal! Passenger ship, Maysby!
The crew cheers at this, eager for plunder.
And your choices will be at the bottom. But wherever you end up, you'll be doing worker placement to take certain actions. But you'll also be managing cannons, the crew and the amount of discontent, the ship's hull, your supplies, the infamy track as to who gets to go when, and the threat track and your goals throughout the game. You'll also be tracking your ship and certain events that happen, and each scenario is done in 2 parts so you can save the game halfway through. Yeah, this one essentially is a worker placement game, but it really is an adventure game. Where you're going on, everyone gets their own pirate, you have your own backstory, you have your different abilities, each one has sort of different things they're probably better at or can max out better at things. But you're going on this adventure, and the app with the voice actors, if you get this game, absolutely, these voice actors make this game so immersive. They're so good at the storytelling, and you really feel like you're there. And even if you play the same scenarios more than once, your choices and what you do are going to be different. Sure, the main plots and the main things like that will be the same, but your adventure of going around, different things will happen. This is one of those campaign games that is just absolutely fantastic. It's so thematic, it's so immersive. Forgotten Waters. The next one is sort of a brain-burning logic and deduction game called Search for Planet X from Renegade Game Studios and Foxtrot Games. Here's a 1-minute overview of how this one works. The Search for Planet X is a logic and deduction game for 1 to 4 players where you're trying to have the most points in the end. Each game, you'll be getting some starting information that's different from all the other players. This will help you start to deduce where Planet X might be or might not be. But over the course of the game, you're going to be researching different objects through different sectors to narrow things down. You can also spend a lot of time to target a specific sector to find out exactly what's in it, but only twice per game. You can also research to find out other logic rules that are specific to this game. You'll be able to submit theories, gaining you points, but also giving other players more information. And once you've narrowed it down, it's not just the first player to find Planet X to win, because other players can also try to find it and/or theories to help even the score. There's an expert mode that brings more sectors and more objects with tougher logic. As well as a solo mode against a bot that really makes you feel like you're playing against another player because it actually learns based upon your theories. And the app really helps the game, giving you secret information and making sure you don't get any wrong answers. This game, I love logic and deduction games. It's probably my favorite genre, and this is my favorite game in that genre. It just came out this year. The reason why I love it is because not only is it thematic, and not only are you trying to figure out these different logic rules, there's different logic rules each game that come out that makes every game feel different. You also have a different, sort of an asymmetric starting point than other players. You'll know things that they don't know. Trying to learn what other players are doing, where they're going, watching what they're asking about, and then seeing where they're putting theories. So you can probably deduce what they found based upon that. Some interesting things there. Rushing to the theories, plus the gameplay is great 2-player, and the solo game works great as well. If you're looking for that pure logic and deduction game, this is the best one ever, and it's Search for Planet X. The next one is a 20th anniversary edition of a very popular game called Castles of Burgundy. Let me give you a 1-minute overview of how this one works. This new version of Castles of Burgundy is for 1 to 4 players where you're going to be building up your duchy and trying to complete different areas. Because the faster you complete them, the more points they're worth, but the larger they are, the more points they're worth as well. You'll be rolling your dice and possibly taking tiles from a specific spot. And then using dice to try to place them in certain spots. You don't have the right number? Don't worry, you can use workers to manipulate the dice's value. And you'll be racing to get bonus points to close out certain sections of your duchy. And each of the tile types do different things, like taking another turn, getting coins, getting points, and special abilities. This version has 8 new expansions, like new tiles that allow you to use the common die, or be a wild tile to finish things quickly, or to gain shields with doubles with powerful abilities throughout the game, or selling goods in a specific order to gain special abilities, or playing a team game with somebody else, or a solo game finishing the map. And just to be clear, the game is not 20 years old. The company Alea that originally published the game was 20 years old when this came out. And so this is, in my opinion, a much better version than the old version that was extremely ugly and watered down colors and things like that. This one is better, still not quite amazing looking, but the game itself is amazing. All these different paths to go, building in off of where you've already built, looking at the dice and looking at your actions, manipulating the dice with different things to take the actions that you want. This game is just an absolutely brain-burning, just phenomenal game. And if you play it with 2 or 3 players, you can finish it in about 75 minutes. It's not too long, but man, this game there's all different strategies to go for. You gotta play what's there. Every game you're gonna sort of go after different things depending on what others are going, what tiles come out. It's just, wow, this game has a lot going on, but it is fantastic. Castles of Burgundy, 20th Anniversary Edition. This next one is a very new game called Ruins of Arnac. This is from CGE, or Chex Game Edition. Here's a 1-minute overview of how this one works. Lost Ruins of Arnac is an exploration game for 1 to 4 players where you'll be going off and digging at different places, gathering resources. You'll also be exploring new areas which will give you even better options, but they're always going to be guarded by guardians that you'll need to take out, or else you'll gain some fear, which is bad. But taking them out can gain you points at the end. You'll be spending resources to do some research, getting you points at the end, but also some bonuses like assistance, which will give you all sorts of different abilities that you can use each turn. And if you research far enough, you'll get tons of points, but also still be able to research those ruins even more for more points. You'll also be purchasing items that will give you points at the end, but also cool abilities, and you'll usually get to use these cards right on your next turn. You'll also be purchasing even more powerful cards, which are the artifacts, which give you really powerful abilities to do throughout the game, and you get to use them right away. On your turn, you'll be selecting cards to use for travel or its abilities, and it's a very interesting twist on deck building. Yeah, this game combined deck building and worker placement better than any game I've played. It's sped up the deck building. So when you buy a card, you don't have to wait for that thing to cycle all the way through your deck. Either you're going to be able to use it right away, or it's going to go right to your pile that you'll probably be able to use next turn. Plus there's all different tracks to go down, the research track and discovery of seeing new things, and this guardian monster comes out. Well, I'm going to get some fear and it's going to clog up my deck if I don't do anything about that. But maybe I do and I get some points that way. It's sort of a point salad. You can go in many different directions. Double-sided board for replayability. And all the cards are unique. The artwork's amazing. Ruins of Arnac, one of the best of the year. And the last one on this list, I think it's the heaviest. It's probably about as heavy as Arnac. They're both, I'd call medium heavy. This is called Whistle Mountain from Bezier Games. Let me give you a 1-minute overview of how this one works. Whistle Mountain is a worker placement, tile placement, and resource management strategy game for 2 to 4 players. You'll be flying one of your cool airships, the hot air balloon, blimp, or dreadnought to forge or collect. You'll be placing onto the grid or machines to gather all adjacent resources from scaffolding, like coal, iron, gold, and water. But you'll also activate the machine's abilities that you're on and ones that you're adjacent to. You'll also be flying to docks, which allow you to spend resources to perform different actions, like gathering machines, or scaffolding that you'll be placing in the future, or gaining cards that gain you cool abilities when played, like the treasure chest that gains you 2 whistles, which are wild resources, or gaining you upgrades. And these give you ongoing ability and endgame points. You can bring all your airships back to your board to forge, which allows you to move a worker from your barracks or rescue one from your whirlpool, which will be worth negative points at the end of the game. You'll be building scaffolding, getting you points for every adjacent scaffolding and machine. You can build machines onto scaffolding, first promoting workers there onto the tower for awards and endgame points, and the built machines gain you points too. But you have to be careful because as you build higher, the snow begins to melt, raising the water level higher and higher, waterlogging machines, making them useless, and flooding your workers to the whirlpool. You'll have to use timely and clever worker placement, forward-thinking tile placement, and ongoing resource management to win the game. This is on this list because it uses worker placement in a way I've never seen before, where you're placing polyomino style scaffolding out into the board, and as you do that, you're literally building an infinite amount of places to place your worker to get resources that are around it, and it's brilliant. There's also standardized worker placement spots around the board, but there's also things of like promoting your workers and moving them over to get some different rewards and points, but also all of the different abilities that you're trying to combo together, from the machines that go out there to your upgrades to the cards you draw. There's just so much comboing that every game you find a different thing to exploit, combos that work well together, and you put that with that almost unlimited places to place your workers. This game is absolutely fantastic, a great strategy game, Whistle Mountain. Well, I hope this helped you find a game either for yourself or your gamer enthusiast friend that you can get for the holidays. Now again, if you want to see any of these games in more detail, all of my full reviews are linked below. Also, the other videos in this series that came out today, games under $20 and ones for more casual gamers or family gatherings, those links are below too. This has been the Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships through board games by helping you find the next one you'll love. Lucky Duck Games has 4 new games available now. In the Court of Miracles, you lead a guild of beggars, scheme with sinister plots, and use trickery to build your own renown in an attempt to take over 16th century Paris. Baron Voodoo is an abstract strategy game involving the collection of thematic soul dice, and it made my top 10 most anticipated releases at Essen's Spiel this year. Kingdom Rush Rift in Time is a tower defense with epic heroes that includes a campaign and an infinite replayability mode. It was hugely popular on Kickstarter, raising over $1 million. Chronicles of Crime 1400 is a standalone follow-up to the award-winning Chronicles of Crime, where you'll be solving 4 unique crimes in medieval Paris. These are all available in stores now, and you can learn more and order them at luckyduckgames.com.